Do you ever feel like no matter how hard you try to get ahead, you're always stuck in the same place? Meanwhile, social media is full of people flexing like they've got it all figured out. New cars, vacations, and designer everything. But here's the thing, debt can make almost anyone look successful. And the sad part is, we start believing that's what success actually looks like. But it's not. Some of the wealthiest people you'll ever meet, you'll never even know it. They look ordinary, they keep it simple, and they do that on purpose. Because looking poor isn't about falling behind the Joneses. It's about realizing the Joneses, they're broke. Most real millionaires, they don't play that game. And that's exactly why they're winning. And listen, get it. This message, it won't be for everyone. A lot of people are going to hear this and they're just going to scroll away. And I'll probably get a few dislikes just for saying it out loud. But if you're still here, you're probably like me. You don't care much about looking rich. You care more about being free and building wealth that's actually real. Also, if you stick around until the end, I'll share a reason that's backed by real research and something honestly I think you'll really connect with. But first, let's talk about the trap that so many people fall into. It's a game that's designed to keep you broke, even when it looks like you're doing really well, because it's the trap you don't see coming. You ever wonder why the moment you start to feel like you're getting ahead, the rules, they keep on changing? Like literally the goalposts, they keep on moving. That's not by accident. The system is built to keep you spending, not succeeding. And it pushes you to chase upgrades and trends and status symbols. And it calls it success. And here's the truth. The game, it's not designed for you to win. It's designed for you to keep on playing. And every time you try to keep up with the Joneses, you end up trapped in lifestyle inflation, spending more just to feel like you're not falling behind. And most of the time, those Joneses are stressed, broke, and just pretending to win. And looking poor is how you step off that treadmill. Now, I want to be clear. Looking poor doesn't mean being unkept or lazy or careless. It means being content with driving the older car, skipping the logos, and chasing your peace and your time over looking rich. It means not performing wealth for people who don't matter. And I know this might sound absolutely backwards in a world where success is measured in likes, square footage, and even watches. But you're not here to impress strangers. You're here because you're thinking bigger, not about how to look rich, but how to actually be free. Now, here's your action step. I want you to look at where your money is going this month. And I want you to ask yourself, am I spending it to get ahead or just to keep up? Start by cutting just one thing, feeding that cycle. That one change can flip your momentum, because once you stop playing that game, you start seeing how a lot of those so-called wins are actually losses in disguise. And that brings us to something that most people don't even realize they've lost. Why more money means less freedom. Have you ever noticed the more money people make, the less freedom they seem to have? It's like one of the biggest paradoxes out there. You'd think with more income means more choices. But for most people, it actually means more commitments and more bills and more pressure to maintain a certain lifestyle. Or suddenly you can't take that lower paying job that you'd love to do, or reduce your hours, or even just step away because you've built a life that's too expensive to walk away from. That's not financial freedom. That's financial prison with a nice view. But when you embrace the mindset of looking poor by not chasing image or not overextending yourself, you're not just saving money, you're buying back options. The options to say no, the options to pivot, and the option to take a break without it all falling apart on you. And I know this isn't glamorous advice. You're not going to go viral on Instagram, but I'll take flexibility over flexing any day of the week. And honestly, if you're watching this, I think you would too. So I want you to take 10 minutes and write down what real freedom looks like for you. Not the dream house or the fancy car. I'm talking about things like time, peace, and autonomy. Then I want you to ask yourself, is my current lifestyle giving me more of that or less? Because once you start buying back your time and your choices, you start to realize you don't need nearly as much as you thought you needed to feel wealthy. But before we dive deeper, real quick, if any part of this video is connected with you so far, do me a small favor and help me get to 1,000 subscribers. It doesn't cost you anything, but it tells the algorithm that this kind of content matters. And it helps me making more videos like this that's real, practical, and built for individuals like you who are trying to actually make a real change. Let's be honest, there's no shortage of money content out there. But if this one's actually making you think, then that's worth subscribing to. So to thank you, here's a picture of a cat sleeping in a box, because freedom looks different for everyone. Why you always feel behind. If you're always feeling behind, no matter how much you earn, this might be why. Here's the thing. We live in a world that profits from your dissatisfaction. There's always a new version, a better model, a limited edition. And the second you get it, it already feels old. And that's called the consumption trap. It keeps you chasing more without you ever asking, do I even need this? But when you stop trying to look rich, you also stop feeding that trap. You start appreciating what you already have. Not because you settle, but because you stop letting marketing decide what's valuable. True contentment isn't about lack. It's about recognizing your version of enough. And if you've ever looked around your home or your closet and thought, why did I even buy that? You're not alone. My wife and I, we've been there too. And learning to stop needing more was the moment we started feeling wealthier. So starting this week, do a 5-minute audit of one of those areas, your closet, your kitchen, even your subscriptions. Now pick one of those items and services you barely use and just let it go. Sometimes your fastest way to feeling rich is to subtract, not to add. If this idea of being content without the performance is really speaking to you, I think you'd really appreciate my video on quiet wealth. So watch it after this one. I think it'll really resonate. I'll link it right here in the top right-hand corner. And once you're no longer chasing more just to feel satisfied, you start becoming a lot more intentional about where your time, energy, and money actually go. What happens when you stop impressing people? Now, I want you to ask yourself, if you had nothing to prove, who would still show up for you? There's something powerful that happens when you stop trying to look successful. You stop attracting people who are only interested in the surface. Because when you're always showing off your car and your clothes, and your lifestyle, you're inviting people who only value those things, not necessarily you. But when you're comfortable looking low-key on the outside, you create space for more honest, meaningful, and genuine relationships because people are drawn to your character and your values and energy, not your stuff. And those are the relationships that last, that support you, and that keep you grounded when things get tough. And I'll be honest with you, some people, they'll drift away when you stop flashing those surface level wins. But honestly, that's not a loss. That's clarity. Now, I want you to ask yourself this. If tomorrow you had to live with less, fewer luxuries, less status, who in your life would stay the same towards you? It's not about judgment. It's about awareness. Because when you start building your life around values and not image, you start attracting more than just better people. You start creating a life that feels less noisy, less complicated, and a whole lot lighter. The shift that gave me peace of mind. Have you ever felt mentally drained just to keep up? The pursuit of looking successful doesn't just drain your wallet, it drains your mind. Every upgrade, every flex, every comparison online, it adds pressure. You start thinking, what will people think if I don't keep this up? And suddenly you're not living for you anymore, you're living for an audience. Because when you stop performing wealth, you clear space in your mind. Less mental clutter, less decision fatigue. Less pressure to impress. You start thinking clearly, you breathe easier, you sleep better. Because freedom, it isn't just about money, it's about peace of mind. And peace, it's quiet. It doesn't beg to be noticed. And I'll be honest, the first time I stopped caring about what people thought about how I looked on the outside, I felt like this huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. That's when I knew I finally was building wealth for me, and that I had nothing to prove to anyone. So I want you to turn off your social media for 48 hours. No, seriously, try it. No comparison, no curated highlight reels. Just give your mind time and space to reset and notice how it feels. Because once you reclaim that peace, you'll notice something else. You start making better decisions, the kind that protects your future. How the wealthy think long term. Here's the thing, when you're not trying to impress people today, you can build a life you actually want tomorrow. One of the biggest traps with looking rich is that it keeps you focused on the now. You're constantly thinking about how you appear, not where you're actually headed. And when your money's tied up in the upgrades and the trends and the lifestyle inflation, it leaves very little room for your future goals. But when you stop caring about appearances, you start asking better questions. Do I really need this? Is this really helping me get to where I want to go? That's when you know your financial decisions, they're becoming intentional, not emotional. And that's where the real shift is starting to happen. You stop reacting to life and you start designing it. Long-term thinking, it's not sexy. Nobody's going to hit the like button for the person who doesn't buy the new car or take that luxury trip. But 5, 10, 15 years from now, those quiet decisions, they compound and they'll speak for themselves. So this week, look at one purchase you're planning on making. And I want you to ask yourself, be honest, would future me be more grateful that I spent this? Or should I just invest this instead? Because once you start making decisions with clarity, you begin to realize something even more powerful. You forget what real control actually feels like. Are you stuck in survival mode? Look, you can't dream bigger if your mind is stuck on just getting by. Most people don't even realize they're in survival mode. They wake up, go to work, pay the bills, maybe even get a little treat for themselves just to make it feel like it's all worth it. Then they repeat. That cycle, it's exhausting. And when your money's always stretched thin, trying to maintain a lifestyle or impress others, you never get the breathing room to actually build anything meaningful. But when you simplify your spending and stop trying to look rich, you start creating margin. And that margin, it gives you options. Options to rest, options to invest, options to pivot and try something new or say no to things that don't serve you. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but I want you to hear me on this. You weren't just meant to just survive life. You were meant to live it, but you can't do that while your next paycheck is already spent on maintaining a version of yourself that's not even real. So as an actionable step, I want you this week to identify one area where you can create margin, even if it's just a little. It could be cooking at home twice instead of eating out, or you can cancel a subscription you're barely even using. Whatever it is, I want you to protect that space and ask yourself, how can I use it to grow, not just to get by? Because once you stop living just to keep up, you start focusing on what truly matters. You start building a version of success that doesn't need an audience, a lifestyle that's draining you. Stress isn't always caused by how much you make. Sometimes it's how tightly you've stretched yourself. Every time you upgrade your lifestyle to match what you earn, or even worse, what you want people to think you earn, you tighten the margins in your life. You're not buying the house or the car. You're buying the pressure to keep up. There's no room for error. There's no room to pivot. And there's definitely no room to slow down. But when you stop trying to perform wealth, you start to build margin. And that margin is so powerful because looking poor, or let's just call it living lean on purpose, gives you that space, the kind of breathing room that lets you respond to life instead of just reacting to it. And look, I'm not just talking theory here. My wife and I, we made some really tough choices years ago. We purposely bought used cars, avoided a large McMansion home, and even cut unnecessary costs, not because we couldn't afford more, but because we didn't want to get buried and suffocated under our own lifestyle. We wanted space, margin, and breathing room. And over time, those choices, they gave us the freedom long before our bank accounts ever did. So as an actual step, I want you to ask yourself, if I lost 20% of my income tomorrow, what would I regret spending on today? That's where your margin is hiding. So start there. Reclaim a bit of that breathing room before life forces it on you. Because once you have that space, you can stop chasing the next shiny thing and start investing in a life that actually matters to you. Why wealth requires discipline. Looking poor isn't just about how you spend, it's about the way you think. Anyone can make a flashy purchase, but building real wealth, that takes consistency, patience, and most of all, discipline. When you're not chasing appearances, you're making space for building those habits that actually move the needle. You're not just impulse buying the new phone every fall. You're not just feeling pressure to match your peers. You're making deliberate choices because you've trained yourself to think long term. And here's the thing that most people miss. Discipline, it doesn't come from restriction. It comes from clarity. You know exactly what you're working towards, and that's why it makes it easier to say no to all those distractions along the way. Looking poor, or better yet, looking unconcerned with appearances, forces you to confront your financial habits. And when you master those, you unlock the kind of stability that money alone can't buy. I'll be honest, the first time I tracked every dollar I spent, it was absolutely humbling. But it taught me something I couldn't unlearn. Most of my needs were actually just wants with really good marketing. That shift alone in mindset changed everything for us. So as an actionable step, this week, I want you to write down every single purchase you make. no matter how small. At the end of the week, you need to review it and then ask yourself this question. Was this aligned with the life I'm trying to build? This little exercise, it builds awareness, and that awareness, it builds the discipline. And once you've built that discipline, you'll notice something unexpected happens. The people around you, they start changing too. Now, if you made it this far, I want to leave you with something really special. Most of what we've talked about so far has been really practical. Habits, mindset shifts, financial moves. But this last reason, it hits different because beneath all the spending, all the flexing, and all the noise, there's a much quieter struggle that most people never even realize that they're in. Would you still feel rich if no one saw it? I want you to ask yourself and be honest. If no one could see your success, would it still matter to you? So much of what drives us to look rich has nothing to actually do with money. It has everything to do with something deeper. Validation. The compliments, the approvals, the silent competition with people we barely even know. It's exhausting. But when you stop chasing validation, you start rebuilding your sense of value from the inside out. You stop spending to feel seen, and you stop upgrading to feel worthy. You stop needing attention to feel enough. That's why most real millionaires, they look ordinary because they know who they are and they don't need a logo or a lifestyle to prove it. This is what the research in the book, The Next Millionaire Next Door, highlights so well. The wealthiest people often live in average neighborhoods, drive used vehicles, and wear practical clothing, not because they're cheap, but because they don't need to prove anything to anyone. Now, let me ask you something. If you had nothing to prove, who would still show up for you? And more importantly, would you still be proud of the life that you've built? Because real wealth, it's not loud. It doesn't ask for applause. It shows up quietly, consistently, and it takes care of the people you love. So as an actionable step, I want you to pause before your next feel-good purchase. And I want you to honestly ask yourself this. Am I buying this because I love it or because I want someone else to notice it? That single question alone can change how you spend and how you see yourself moving forward. So if you've ever felt the pressure to look successful, to spend, to perform, to keep up, I hope this video gave you something even better, permission to let go. And if you're already on this journey, living below your means, building quietly, and choosing freedom over flexing, I hope this reminds you that you're not alone. So if this video spoke to you, even if it's just a little, do me a favor and hit the like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with someone who you think may need to hear this. And also drop a comment down below. Honestly, what's one thing you've stopped buying just to keep up with appearances? Seriously, I'd love to hear your story, even if it's just a short sentence. Thank you so much. This is Simply in the Black, helping you stay out of the red and into the black for good. Until next time, stay focused, stay consistent, and stay in the black. I'll see you in the next one. If you're wondering what happens after you finally stop living paycheck to paycheck, check out my video, Why Everything Changes After You Hit That First 10K. I'll link it right here.